Hello everyone, this is the next Vanheim section. So I found no magic sites. Ulm has proclaimed a new prophet, so bad for Ulm that that's happening. Marignon's continuing to pump up my unrest. There was a battle here in Jaburnia. I don't think this is anything. No, it's just a scout. And yeah, I mean there's a few guys hanging out there. But then Pythium went ahead and attacked Agartha with this big army against a pretty sizable amount of province defense. Yeah, so you can get a little taste of what is to come when fighting Pythium there. Lightning bolts are a very powerful spell. Even if you're a mere Air 1 mage, lightning bolts are quite dangerous. I mean, he actually took at least 12 losses, probably a lot more. Oh yeah, at least 16 from these gladiators because they run away after the battle. Or I mean, whatever, they desert. They leave your army they're gone. But still, super great for him. Like, this was 34 province defense, and he lost like probably less than 200 gold. So yeah, that's the power of bringing in an entire mage corps, is that you can just obliterate a more mundane army. And he even had attentive statues, and these are decent units. I didn't know Agartha would get those in province defense. There's Marignon finishing off Ind. Kind of an interesting choice for Marignon to be recruiting like Jade warriors, these Amazons. And also flagellants are, I mean, kind of like a funny haha unit. Found one fire gem and then found two nature gems, which is alright. Now, well, unfortunately, my elves were detected by the province defense patrolling outside of Pythium. Yeah, so I mean, nothing to really worry about. They are just humans. But I didn't want Pythium to know that I had those elves on top of his capital at that moment. I think I sent him a message at this point, like, "Oh man, sorry, I was those elves are moving towards Agartha. I'll leave right now." And that's why none of these units are continuing the siege. Normally, I would have, even if you're an elf, right, and you're like sneaking units away, you're leaving the majority of or you're letting your units retreat. You should at least keep one guy sieging, maintaining the siege, because even though it is just one guy, the siege will be maintained. And while I'm holding this province, I'm collecting 129 gold from it, which is it's pretty substantial. Like, I think, yeah, even some of my most lucrative provinces can't bring in that much wealth. So it's good to keep the siege going for as long as possible. But I didn't want Pythium to pull his army back. I wanted him to stay here, so, it's not likely that that'll happen, but that's the reason why I'm not maintaining the siege anyway. I'm just trying to move my units into position again. One of the Vanheurses here died of disease, which is kind of irritating, but I'm just moving units around with elves to try to position myself to take provinces. Building a temple here, forging owl quills, continuing to scout. I'm building a palisade here, still in this province. Not building a lab, though. Really should be building a lab. I'm going to try here for 240. Anything happening down here? I'm also forging owl quills. Still building a palisade. I'm sneaking here. Why am I sneaking? I guess I'm site searching for Air 2 and Blood 1 with this guy. Although he should be building a lab. It's kind of stupid not to do that. I mean, build a lab, build a temple. I'm floating so much money. Palisade over here, you know, fortress is going to be done next turn. Looks like I'm not recruiting anything. A lot of sloppy mistakes on my part looking back at this. Yeah, the temple's coming up now, but just a little late. Definitely missed at least one mage. Building a temple down here is pretty nice, and I'll have these guys be able to walk down here next turn and check it out, or build a lab down here is what I mean to say. Is anything else of note happening? I suppose we can truly see the extent. So Marignan is over here, I believe, and you know, here's Ind, right? Ind's got a fortress over here, so Marignan truly a threat. Oh yeah, and this is the situation where the frog is eating up Jotunheim. Jotunheim also getting bullied by random events, which that always sucks when that happens. Up to this point, basically, diplomatically speaking, I constantly have been informing the various players, basically everyone who I can talk to, that Nabaa is the most dangerous threat on the entire game. Which maybe that is true when the game is in a, you know, pretty late game stage and Nabaa is as big as they are. But, you know, clearly I am surely a greater threat. But that's not going to stop me from telling the Marignan player every single turn, like, man, we got to deal with Nabaa. We have to deal with Nabaa. We have to kill Nabaa as soon as possible, because Nabaa is the big threat. And I was also telling Ulm that constantly too, but the Ulm player never responded to a single diplomatic message I ever sent them. And I'm also telling that to Man as well, and Abyssia. I think Micklin too, but Micklin's he was just like, hey man, I'm fighting Abyssia. What do you want from me? And yeah, granted, sometimes it's not like, I don't realistically expect Micklin to get involved in a war against Nabaa, but you just have to like drill ideas into people's heads until they believe it to be a reality, even if it's not true. Although in this case, it is true. This is not gaslighting. Nabaa just really is a dangerous threat. I'm also a dangerous threat, to be fair. But at the same time, so is Marignan. So is Zabalba. I mean, even though Agartha is not particularly big, he has a pretty big army that is a genuine threat that could do a lot of damage to me. The only person who, at this point in the game, I'm not really worried about is, like, Flegra and, I guess, Man, because they're just so far away. I can't, you know, can't really be bothered. I mean, even Vanarus, I'm talking to that player, like, hey, you know, do you need any trading done? Do you have any map information that you would like to share? Anything that you want from me? I just sort of like doing that, talking to other players and trying to ingratiate myself to their good wills. Like Abyssia, I could kind of tell at this point was a new player, because he's still rolling one fort. So I felt safe, you know. I felt like, oh, Abyssia is probably not going to attack me, because they are totally tied up in this war with Micklin, and I don't think they have the military assets to engage in a two-front campaign with me at the same time. But, I mean, you know, he does kind of like position these armies strangely. I mean, it's not like I'm not putting big armies on Abyssia's border. I have some mages, but it's just, you know, I was a little worried, basically, when I saw this army here, is what I'm trying to say. But I also thought, like, even if Abyssia attacked me, even if Pythium or Agartha was like, hey, Abyssia, Vanheim is going to have a second capital, maybe. You need to get in on this war and save us. I wasn't even really worried. Like, honestly, I was like, I'll probably lose, like, these 3 provinces, but whatever. I'm going to have a palisade up in 2 turns. Going to have a palisade here in 2 turns. Going to have a palisade down here in 2 turns. Like, you know, I just wasn't really too worried about it. Didn't have to delay for very long. And I wasn't concerned about eating up a bunch of Abyssia's land if he did attack me, because I have such great mobility. You know, the troops over here can jump to several Abyssian provinces if I wanted to. You know, I could get to Abyssia pretty fast and do some relatively deep strikes, I suppose. I don't think there's too much else to say on this turn. I'm still researching to Enchantment 3. Nothing in, I mean, I've said this before, nothing in Enchantment 3 is super useful for me. Like, Seeking Arrow's fine, and Gift of Flight is okay. None of the other stuff I can really use. Enchantment 4 is solid for Cloud Trapeze. And I think I swapped to Enchantment 4 before Construction 4. But maybe not. Maybe I get it after Construction 4. There's no globals yet. This is my big treasury. I guess I'm not using these hammers. I don't know exactly. I guess I mean, it's not always great to just constantly produce owl quills. You know, I mean, air gems are pretty important, so you can't just always frivolously throw them away on owl quills. Not that owl quills are like terrible. It's just they're a little expensive. Only by the nature of air gems being really valuable. Is there anything else of note? No, I don't think there's anything else of note. This is mostly just like I was concerned what to do in this situation. It was nice to get the influx of money from Pythium, but I really didn't want to make this player be on edge with this sort of play. So I'm gonna hope that the army does not retreat and that it stays on the fort. But you know, really did all that I could diplomatically. So we'll see how it resolves. That's the end of turn 20.